Hey there, Changemaker. Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 38. Today we wrap up our three-part series, Your First Year of Business, with a look at systems. I know that probably sounds really boring, and when I first started my business all those years ago, I likely would have skipped this episode too in favor of something more sexy, like how I can find clients right away. So let me just say this. This episode is all about the DNA of your business. I pinky swear it's worth a listen. So let's get to it. I spent years building my interior design business, trying to do all the things. The marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Well, hey there, Changemakers. Welcome to the podcast. And today's a little bit different. So if I sound a little bit distracted, it's because I am. I'm actually recording this at my boyfriend's parents' house and I've done my best to find a quiet spot, but you might hear some background noise and we're just going to be okay with that. All right? Cool? I'm going to be cool with it. You're going to be cool with it. It's going to be awesome. So today we're talking about systems. So our first two episodes in this series, your first year of business, focused on relationships and building relationships and booking your first clients. Today I want to talk about systems and we're just going to jump right into it here. So first of all, let's talk about what a system is. Essentially, a system is just a set of parts, steps, or components that are connected together to form a more complex whole. It's really as simple as that. So if I look at something like getting a podcast episode out, there's a series of steps that are required in order to do the podcast. Things like deciding what the topic is going to be or, writing the discussion points so I have some notes to look at ahead of time or scheduling time to record it. So, I'm sitting in my office as opposed to somewhere else that I'm not normally sitting in. Editing, uploading to the platform, writing show notes, all of those things. Those are all steps to having the podcast, like getting each podcast out. And when I start to put those steps together, if I create a continuous workflow that I repeat every time I do it, that becomes a system. So essentially, your system is just the steps that you're taking anyway, but now you have clarified it and so you understand what all is entailed. So taken individually, each step seems fairly simple. And the interesting thing is, I know every time I learn something new, if you get like an onboarding document or, let's say you're starting a new job or something, or you're learning a new program and they're like, here's all the things you need to learn. And you might get the initial document and be like, holy crap, how am I ever going to get all this in? And the truth is what you're looking at is just a system of steps. And so up front, it might seem like this crazy, scary thing, but the truth is once you actually break it down and you look at one piece at a time, it's not so scary. And so I don't want you to get nervous thinking about systems. And as I mentioned in the intro, I know when I first started my business, I thought systems were for businesses that were way further advanced than I was, or that I needed to learn a whole bunch about, what kind of systems and people in all industries and in all walks of life will use fancy words and fancy terminology around systems and how they do things. But really, it's just a set of steps that you do over and over again. That's what creates a system. So well-planned systems break down the steps. Think about it like a recipe. So if you're baking something or if you're cooking something, then you follow a recipe that is literally a system which is just a series of steps of how to do things. And a well-planned system breaks it down in the order that makes the most sense. So for example, if you're baking a cake, you wouldn't just throw all the ingredients in the oven, right? First, you would mix them together, you'd measure them all out, make sure that you have the right ones, et cetera, et cetera. When I do the podcast, for example, I can't upload a podcast episode until I've actually recorded a podcast episode. And I can't record an episode until I've decided what the topic is going to be and I wrote my notes for it, right? So there's a logical progression to systems. And I know thinking about a recipe and thinking about, putting together a podcast seems like they're fairly clear cut. And you might be thinking, well, Amy, what if it's something more complex? How do I know what goes first? That's where you're in a lot of trial and error and experimentation. So think about it this way. When you're starting your business, the whole way to approach the start of your business is to look at it as one giant experiment. How is it going to, how's it going to look? How's it going to function? What do I need to do? Do I need to bring some things in? There are typically a few steps that we know that we need to take that are fairly logical. And then there's other steps that we have no idea about. So we have no idea that we need to do certain things. I know when I started my design business, I had no idea that I needed to, get specific insurance or have a specific kind of registration. I didn't know that I needed to do a specific kind of name search in order to be able to register the name for my business. And so what I've done is I've taken all of that stuff and put it into a system, which is Lost to Launched Academy. The whole academy, the whole program takes all the steps, all the individual steps that I learned and had to figure out along the way, and puts them into a logical sequence that is easy to follow. And that's what a system is. It's literally that's it. So the beauty of it is when you get to pay attention and watch for somebody else's systems is that you get to have the advantage of their experience, right? So the beauty of, for example, Lost to Launch Academy is that you can just draw on my experience and understand that I've already gone through it. I've already figured out what the next logical steps are. So you don't need to go through all the little itty bitty stuff. You can just jump in and follow the steps. So in terms of, figuring out a system, it takes experimentation. And if you're someone like me, my hand's up on this one. If you're someone who likes to know the answer and just do it, it's going to be a challenge to start a business. It's a challenge anyway, but because you just can't possibly know all the answers. There's no way that you can know all the answers. And if you think about it this way, in order to figure out what steps you would need to take, so think about the actions that you take or the things that are required in your business that are repetitive. So maybe it's something like doing your bookkeeping or invoicing or onboarding your clients, things that you do over and over again. Those are the things that you're looking to create systems for. And I said before, it's all trial and error. So what you really want to think about is you're testing out each step. And so let's say, for example, you're onboarding a client and you don't have any kind of intake form or anything to have a consistent result each time. And so part of your system might be to actually create an intake form, something that you do every time, and you'll learn as you practice it that, okay, maybe your intake form is taken the first time that the client sees you, or maybe you do the intake form the first time you speak to the client, so when they're booking an appointment with you. And so what you're doing is you're testing it. And then, of course, what you're looking for is a consistent result. You want a successful result each time. And that's how systems get tweaked. That's how you find out what works and what doesn't, is that you start to look for the things that generate the best success, and then you repeat those over and over again. And if if your individual steps aren't seeing the results that you want yet, then it just needs a little bit more tweaking. So essentially, systems just become the way that we do things. And the truth is, you have a system for everything. We have a system for loading our dishwasher, right? You'll have a system for how you do laundry. You have a system for, how you get up in the morning. If you think about your morning routine, right? Like you get up, you go to the bathroom, you have a shower, you have breakfast, whatever your morning routine is, basically it's just a system. That's what it is. It's your system to go from waking up to getting ready for your day. And so when you start to look at it that way, then it becomes less scary, right? It becomes less daunting to think, oh my gosh, how am I going to figure out all these things? But the goal is for a system, the goal of the system is to create a successful result each time. And that's why you really want to look at building systems into your business so that you're not trying out new steps every single time, so that you can create a consistent experience for your clients and a consistent result in your business. And yeah, it takes trial and error, but you want to pay attention to the steps that work and the ones that generate the best kind of results, because you want to repeat those and then you want to get them into some sort of a system. And so you want to think about, so if you think about just your morning routine, the successful result of your morning routine is that you're, up, dressed, clean, have breakfast, ready to go for the day, right? That's essentially the focus, is to be ready to do the day. And so each system that you have in place, and everything in your system or everything in your business can break down into separate systems, is to yield a successful result. So I want to take a moment here and just look at a couple of systems that would be hugely beneficial for your first year in business, and will really set up the results, not just for you right away, but for your business to grow. So a few of the must-have systems that I think are really important for a new business. I mentioned this already, but a simple onboarding process. And when I say onboarding, if you're not familiar with the terminology, basically it's an intake system, a way that you bring new clients in. So you want to make sure that you get pertinent info from your clients. You need to organize the information from your clients. You need to prepare your clients to work with you. When I started in my design business, because it was so one-on-one, I had to figure out okay, what do I need to know before I actually go out to the client's home? What's the information that I need to have? And after I did it a few times and realized I would get there or I'd hang up the phone and realize I forgot a bunch of information, that was the trigger for me to say, okay, I need to actually have a form that I can just follow, so that I'm not thinking the whole time through the conversation, okay, what else do I need to ask? I'm present in the conversation with this potential client because I know that I have prompts to tell me what I need to ask, the information that I really need to have. So that's hugely important. That was a super easy one. You also need a system of how you're organizing your clients' information. And again, are you doing something specific to prepare your clients to work with you? So I send an engagement letter out to all of my clients that lets them know what to expect. It also lets them know the policies that I have if there are missed appointments or canceled appointments within a certain time frame, or things to have ready before I get there. So that's all part of your onboarding process. Basically, it's the moment from the first contact that you make with the client and the first time you see them, right? And if they come in, if you have a location where they actually come in, say you're a massage therapist and someone just walks in to make an appointment or walks in and does a massage right away, then that whole onboarding process would be all right away, right? You take in their pertinent information, you'd figure out, how to organize their information and all of that stuff. The second system that I think is super important is a tracking system. You can also think of it as your system for bookkeeping. Basically, you want to track your money in and out so you can see the health of your business. And I've talked about this before about, the importance of having a good system of bookkeeping and the importance of tracking your money, and how much I don't like doing it, but it's super important to do. So I'm just going to give you a little tough love. Get over yourself. It needs to happen. Every business needs to track the money in and out. It's really important. And it can be scary if you're not tracking it, because there are businesses who just say, I'm not a bookkeeper, or I don't know, or I can't afford one, or I don't want to learn it, or I don't have time, or whatever excuse they come up with. And then they have no idea what's going on. So they might have a very profitable business and they're missing some huge opportunities to either save money or expand the business, or they're running at a loss and they're really struggling and they're not aware of it either, because all they see is the money coming in and they aren't necessarily paying attention to the money going out. So as a system for tracking your money in and out is super important. And so you can call it a tracking system, or your system for bookkeeping. And just a quick note on that, when I was doing my own bookkeeping, so my system stretched across every day. Even though I didn't do the bookkeeping every day, every time that I would make a purchase or I had a receipt, that receipt would get filed into a specific file folder. I had receipts that were specific for my business and receipts that were specific for personal expenditures, and I tracked both. And then, so those collect, and I had a system for, how those are organized. And then on the day that I would actually sit down and do my bookkeeping, I had a system for how I went through it. How do I input all of these receipts? And then you need to reconcile accounts and reconcile bank accounts and credit cards, etc. And so, what's the system for doing it? And then once that information is done, where does that information go? So I had a system that organized where all the receipts got filed. So all of those are parts of one system, and that one system is just tracking. It's tracking my money. But they are steps that get taken every day. Right. And then there's one moment where I'm actually doing the bookkeeping, and that's sort of the bulk of it. But if I didn't have my receipts in a specific place, or I didn't have any way of organizing them, I'd lose so much time just trying to figure out where everything goes and where to log it, that it would it would drive me crazy. Right. So I would recommend that you sort of set those steps up ahead of time. And I talk about that. I have a whole module on that in Lost to Launched Academy. So if you're interested in connecting out with the Academy, then feel free to DM me or send me an email, amy@daretobegin.net. The third system that I think is a must-have for year one is a growth process. So how are you bringing clients back? Also, like thinking about repeat work. How are you leveraging your network to bring more clients in? So new clients. What's your support system for this? Do you have a referral program? I talk about referral programs in episode 25, so definitely have a listen to that. Do you have testimonials? I talk about that in episode 24. Essentially, what's the system of supporting the growth of your business? What do you have in place that you're doing consistently that's hopefully yielding the results you're looking for to either bring clients back in, so repeat clients, or bring new clients in. So those are three really important systems. I think your onboarding process, your tracking system, and a growth process. In the first year of business, you could go down the rabbit hole and get crazy. Like you could try to build systems for all kinds of things. How do you build a system for your social media, and how do you build a system for, the actual work you do with your clients? And I can't even think of any other ones right now, but you could go crazy and just have like systems coming out of the wazoo, and it's not necessary. In your first year, focus on bringing clients in, making the system for how they come in easy and replicable, having a system to track your money in and out so you know what your business is doing, and having a system to bring growth into the business. So those three really are the only three that I would focus on if I were you in your first year. Or, if you've been going for a while but you haven't created anything, start with those three and then go from there. And yeah, so then let's touch on the last bit. I think today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter than normal, which is totally fantastic because, like I said, in my location where I'm at today, I'm a little bit distracted. So I'm grateful for my notes because I'm literally working the system of my notes and the steps that I take every time for my podcast. So check it out. You're witnessing a system in action. So how do you start a system? Well, your first year of business, like I mentioned earlier, is really all about trial and error. And that trial and error is going to continue all the way through. It's never going to stop. But what you're looking for in each step is to yield a consistent, successful result. So the best way to start is literally just to start, right? When people say, how do you start a business? Well, you just start, and then you keep going and you learn and you figure out what works and what doesn't work, and you go from there. So let's break down an onboarding system. So first of all, and I touched this on a little bit already, but figure out what info you need to have from your clients. And I would recommend that to make it easy and consistent for yourself, make a simple checklist or a form that you can fill out every time so you have the same information. So I have one that's printed out and it also sits on my computer. So if I happen to be in the office when I'm speaking with a new client, then I can just fill it out on the computer. But I have it printed out as well because if let's say maybe an appointment somehow came in where I didn't touch base with them ahead of time, or it's a follow-up or something, I don't know, where I'm for some reason seeing them in person and so haven't had the chance to do that intake, I have a printed form as well. So again, I'm taking the same consistent information. Then you want to think about how are you going to keep their information organized. Now, I know that the world is going to a paperless system, and if you can go paperless, fantastic. But I actually really like having physical file folders. So I have just simple like brown file folders, and each client gets their own folder. Their address and name and everything, contact information goes in the folder, and then each client gets a job number. And so that's huge. It's something that I teach inside Lost to Launched Academy, to actually number the jobs or the projects that you're on. Now, if you do a lot of one-offs, that may not be the easiest thing for you to do. But for example, if you are building a business that's going to be doing a lot of repeat work, or like with the case of my interior design business where I'm doing projects with clients. So it's not just that initial touch point. It's also, the follow-up, and then the orders, and then, the whole process of their project. Each client gets their own file folder, and they get a job number. And something that I learned, and here's the beauty of, trial and error and learning as you go, I used to keep everything in one file folder. So that included all of the invoices for products that I would purchase and everything. And I changed that when I noticed that in some of my design sessions, my clients were actually looking over my shoulder into my file folder. And you might be thinking, well, what's the problem with that? Well, if I'm purchasing product, I usually extend a discount to my clients, but I don't extend a full discount, right? Like I get a designer's deal and I extend a discount to my clients, but my cost is probably going to be a little bit lower than what I would charge my clients. And I didn't do that at first because, I don't know, I had this like naive version in my head of like, well, I just want to make it better for everybody. But then I had a conversation with a few, people who've been in business for a while, and they're like, Amy, that doesn't make any sense. You're leaving so much money on the table, and you're not doing a disservice to your clients by charging them a little bit extra. They still get a great discount because they're ordering it through you and they're making use of your connections. But by not having like any profits built into that, you're leaving so much money on the table, and that doesn't actually make sense. And almost no business operates that way. And so that took a mental shift for me to change that. But what I want to get back to is that when I did that, and I noticed that these clients were looking over my shoulder into my file folders, and there's the potential then for all of a sudden they're seeing information that they shouldn't be seeing that is pertinent to my business, but really is none of their business at all. I actually then created a system so that for those clients, I had a red file folder that only had their job number. It had no other identifier on the file folder than the job number, because that file folder then kept all of that sensitive information. It all got put into there, and each client, if it was necessary, would get that file folder. Let me rephrase that. Each project would get that file folder assigned to it if it was necessary, but it allowed me to keep that sensitive information in a place where my clients couldn't by chance see it. And if somehow, the file folder got picked up somehow or lost or whatever, the only identifier on the folder is a job number. So unless you know how I'm actually numbering my jobs and understanding, the client, you have to know how I number my jobs and how I assign my clients as numbers. There's no way to know who that belongs to. So that's an example of, tweaking a system in process. Then part of your onboarding system will be, how do you prepare your clients? Do you send them an email in advance like I do, where I send them that engagement letter? What do they need to know or do or bring in order to meet with you? Or what should they expect in their meeting with you? How can you make it easy for them? So the whole idea of your onboarding process is to generate a consistent result every time, obviously, but also to make it easy for the clients. And the cool thing is, if you've ever been to or engaged with a new business that has a well-structured onboarding system, the way that you can tell is that you'll find the entire part of starting work with them really easy and very well laid out. And you'll probably find yourself thinking, wow, that was really fantastic. I know exactly what to expect when I meet with this person. And rather than feeling nervous about it, I'm just excited about it, right? That's an example of how a really good onboarding system is fantastic for your clients. So I would recommend that that's definitely one of the first systems that you want to work on and trial and error out and see what works. And I just want to say, if you're struggling getting started at all, I've talked about this a little bit through the episode as well. You can sign up for the Launchpad. So this is a free mini training. Lost to Launched Academy is a full 10-week program, which is a very in-depth program. It's fantastic. It takes all of the systems that I have built into my business and puts them into clear, easy to follow steps. So you can upload all of those systems basically into your business with relative ease. But if you're not ready to jump in, because Lost to Launched Academy is a paid program, then I would recommend that you sign up for the Launchpad. And it's a free mini training. The whole focus of the Launchpad is designed to get you moving pronto and generate some confidence building results ASAP. So there's 3 days of training that are specific to the Launchpad, which is all about, bringing some income in right away. And then if you were listening to last week's episode, I talked about the bonus that I just added into the Launchpad, which is a guided walkthrough of the 10 steps to launch download. And Lord help me, I have been trying to think of like a sexier way or a more engaging way to be like, check out the 10 steps to launch download. And here I have a guided walkthrough. I don't know, guys. I have no idea how to make it sound more exciting or more, marketing isn't my strong suit, to be fair. So I'm trial and erroring it all the time. But essentially the 10 steps to launch download was my initial, very in-depth download that I released earlier this year, which is literally 10 steps to help you get your business up and going. And so it moves through a lot of the stuff that you'll see if you are doing like a traditional business plan. There are steps inside that download that will be very similar to what you would do to start a business plan. But the 10 steps to launch download basically is to get you going from, I have an idea in my head of what this business could be, and move you through the steps that you would need to actually like get that business legal. So the final step is, I think the 9th step is, getting your business name sorted out and getting it registered, looking for your license and permits and things like that. And so when I talk about, that I teach you the steps of how to do it, I break it all the way down. It's not just, okay, now you need to go make your business legal. It's, okay, here are the things to look for. In Canada, for example, to register a business name, it varies from one province to the other. So there's a handful of provinces that need a specific report pulled, and then other provinces have a whole different system again. And so in the Launchpad, or in the guided walkthrough, I go through the 10 steps to launch download. I give you great examples from my own business. I give you insight from things that I've learned or what I've seen other people do. And the whole goal of that guided walkthrough is that you're not getting stuck at any point inside that 10 steps to launch, because I want to make it easy for you, right? I want to get you up and going and make it as easy as possible for you, short of me literally coming and doing it myself, which is just impossible. I can't do that, but I want to make it as easy as I can. So I would definitely recommend you can sign up for the Launchpad by going to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad, which is all one word. Sign up and you'll get instant access to that free training. If you're looking for more in-depth assistance to build and grow your business, then I would encourage you to connect with me directly to learn about my one-on-one coaching option. So you get the benefit of the direct one-on-one with time with me. So it's not something like this where you're just listening to a podcast, and it's not a group. It's literally you and me one-to-one working through your business. And you also get access to the systems I've created and built over my years in business, meaning that as my one-to-one clients get access to the Lost to Launched Academy. And so it's part of the coaching package that I have for my one-on-one clients. You get full access to the Lost to Launched Academy. And the beauty of it is that even though the program is set up to be fairly self-explanatory and you can move through it on your own with relative ease, with that one-to-one coaching aspect tied in, you get personal support from me. So if there's something that's you're stuck on, or you just you're lost in doubt or overwhelm, or you're like, oh my God, Amy, I can't think of where to get this or where to find this, then that's where the one-to-one support really comes in. So I would encourage you, if that's something that is of interest to you, to connect to me directly. You can email me, Amy, AMY, at daretobegin.net, or you can always connect with me by direct message over Instagram. You can find me at I Dare to Begin. And I welcome all those requests and points of connect. And I'll be honest, my time of late has been a bit constricted, so I'm not taking everybody who comes in. So part of my onboarding process with Dare to Begin is to vet potential students ahead of time. So if you go ahead and connect with me, then you'll see the onboarding process that I am developing. Is it perfect? No, it's a work in progress. But it will give you an idea of sort of what my onboarding process is as well. I would not encourage you to just try, going through for the one-on-one just to see the process. But if it is something that's on your heart, if you're thinking, boy, I really wish that I could have a mentor or a coach, someone that could just walk me through all of this stuff, or even bounce ideas off of, or get some perspective from someone who's been doing it for a while, that's what the one-to-one program is. So like I said, you can reach out to me directly, amy@daretobegin.net, or over Instagram, DM me at I Dare to Begin. All right, kids. That's all I got for today. Look at us. I'm so proud of us that, first of all, nobody walked into the room while I was recording this. Second of all, I didn't drop the microphone because I'm actually holding it as opposed to normally have it on a stand. And I think we crushed it. I'm sending you guys a little virtual high five. Excellent work. So I trust that you got some great value out of this episode. And like I said, 3 systems that you want to get: your onboarding process, your tracking system, and a growth process. And I listed all those resources. The Launchpad, go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad. That's a free mini training. If you want something more in depth, then connect with me about my one-to-one coaching program, which includes Lost to Launched Academy for all of my one-to-one coaching clients. With that, I wish you a phenomenal day. So I am recording this on Thanksgiving Sunday, which is Thanksgiving in Canada. For those of you who are in the States or elsewhere in the world, then your Thanksgiving isn't for a while yet, or you may not have one at all. But it's Thanksgiving, and so I'm going to wrap this episode up and close down my computer and then go put on my sweater so we can head out to the lake, which is where my boyfriend's family, we have Thanksgiving dinner out by the lake every year. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the food. Probably going to have way too much to eat, I'll be totally honest. And I'll tell you all about it maybe on the next week's podcast episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really, truly love and appreciate that you tune in. And I would just, if you have any questions at all, again, DM me, email me, and I just look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now. Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective, profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.